There comes a moment when power no longer protects, when the gavel that once silenced opposition begins to echo with questions no longer so easily dismissed. For over a decade, Congressman Jerry Nadler commanded the Judiciary Committee like a courtroom of his own design. He wrote the questions. He chose the witnesses. He choreographed the narratives. Presidents squirmed under his gaze. Rivals were brought to heel. The media followed his script like scripture. But power, once weaponized, draws its own target. On a gray Washington morning, that target became unmistakable. The man once called the gatekeeper of oversight now sat across from someone holding the keys to every door he tried to lock. Her name was Pam Bondi. This wasn't a headline debate. This wasn't a partisan clash. This was a reckoning. And Nadler? He never recovered. The James Madison Oversight Chamber was designed for decorum, but that day it held its breath. Every chair was filled. Cameras perched like sentinels. Staffers avoided eye contact, unsure whether they were witnessing a hearing or history. At the center of it all, the long, cold committee table. No frills, no distractions. Just nameplates, microphones, and the dull tension of consequences waiting to be read aloud. Jerry Nadler entered first. He moved with that practiced rhythm, calm, controlled, unbothered. He adjusted his glasses, flipped a folder, checked his watch. It was the posture of someone who'd spent decades above reproach. And then the door opened. Pam Bondi walked in. No entourage, no media trail, just a thick binder in one hand and a calm expression that somehow chilled the air. She didn't smile. She didn't posture. She just walked to her seat and set the binder down. The sound of it landing was the loudest thing in the room. Even the cameras flinched. The stage wasn't set for politics anymore. It was set for truth. Pam Bondi wasn't a firebrand. She didn't rely on noise to make a point. Her presence didn't spark commotion. It commanded stillness. As the former Attorney General of Florida and a federal prosecutor, she'd seen power up close. She had prosecuted criminal empires. She had withstood national media storms. She didn't walk into hearings to posture. She walked in to finish. On this morning, she wasn't holding a speech. She was holding receipts. Her demeanor wasn't confrontational, but forensic, deliberate, precise. Every gesture was calculated, not for drama, but for clarity. She wasn't here to debate Jerry Nadler. She was here to document him. Nadler didn't look up much, but when he did, he saw something that didn't belong in a room designed for politics. Accountability. Pam Bondi's binder didn't have colorful tabs or highlighted slogans. It had timelines, authorizations, letters, charts, and more than anything else, names. Names of people ignored, complaints shelved, funds shifted. She sat like a prosecutor preparing for cross-examination, but this wasn't a courtroom, and the man across from her wasn't a defendant. Not yet. It started not with a bang, but a page. Pam Bondi opened the binder. The room didn't rustle. It contracted. She began not with an accusation, but with a quote. Nadler's own words. Oversight, he had once declared, is not optional. It is the backbone of our democracy. Pam paused. Then she looked directly at him. Let's see how strong that backbone really was. The first document was simple. A whistleblower referral. Dated, signed, logged, unread. Pam read it aloud. It cited irregular reimbursements, missing receipts, ethics flags. It was addressed to the committee Nadler chaired. And nothing was done. Nadler blinked, once. No statement, no defense. Not yet. Pam continued, page after page. Each one a receipt, not for what Nadler did, but for what he didn't. Delayed hearings, suppressed memos, subpoenas that vanished the moment a Democrat's name appeared. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The binder did it for her. The binder didn't accuse. It exposed. Pam Bondi began connecting threads Most had never noticed. Subpoenas requested, but never sent. Whistleblowers filed, then silenced. Ethics complaints received, then shelved. "Let's look at the numbers," she said, clicking a remote. A screen lit up behind her. Between 2019 and 2022, under Nadler's leadership, 41 subpoenas were issued against Republican officials. One subpoena against a Democrat. That one? Quietly withdrawn. No hearing, no follow-up. Pam didn't editorialize. She didn't have to. The numbers did the talking. She moved to committee spending. Line items revealed over $900,000 in external research contracts, nearly half routed through firms linked to Democrat-aligned strategists. Bondi advanced the slide again. Invoice number 482078, narrative mapping. Invoice number 78400000, partisan impact modeling. Invoice number 9456000, crisis response optimization. She turned to Nadler. What part of congressional oversight requires crisis branding consultants? Nadler looked down. Next came the internal memos. Ethics reviews flagged by compliance officers. One memo in particular bore Nadler's initials. It was marked, "Do not distribute." Pam read the subject line, Tier 3 optics risk. The term would go viral. This wasn't oversight, she said. This was concealment. The room wasn't loud. It was quiet, in the way courtrooms fall quiet, when the verdict becomes obvious. Nadler's defenses weren't arguments anymore. They were absences, silence, stillness. Pam Bondi read from a sworn affidavit by a former deputy ethics counsel. We were instructed to delay any internal review tied to Democrat operatives. 2 reports were buried. I resigned shortly after. She laid the document flat on the table. No drama, just proof. Then she turned to the room. If a freshman staffer had done what we just laid out, would they still have a job? No one answered. Pam closed the binder. You said no one is above the law, she said to Nadler. Today, we find out if you meant it. That line didn't just end the presentation, it ended the illusion. Jerry Nadler never recovered from it. The moment Pam Bondi finished, silence ruled. But it wouldn't last long. The first crack didn't come from the opposition. It came from Nadler's own side. Representative Ethan Whitman, Democrat from New Hampshire, cleared his throat and leaned forward. Transparency, he said, isn't optional. No one, not even our leadership, is exempt from scrutiny. Murmurs rippled across the chamber. One voice broke the surface, then another. Representative Kimberly Sanders of Maryland followed. If we ignore this, we abandon the very principles we claim to protect. Don Reynolds from Michigan added bluntly, this isn't betrayal, it's integrity. Within minutes, the atmosphere had shifted. Committee staffers whispered. Reporters scribbled. What was once an untouchable party line was cracking in real time. Not everyone stepped forward, but enough did. Enough to move the moment from political theater to institutional revolt. The committee reconvened that afternoon. The room felt heavier. Tension now lived in every corner. The motion was simple. Suspend Chairman Gerald Nadler, pending formal ethics review. Hands were raised. 15 in favor, 9 opposed, 3 abstained. The resolution passed. There was no applause, just the soft scrape of a nameplate being removed. The chair at the center of the panel, once Nadler's throne of oversight, now sat empty. Outside the chamber, the story detonated. Headlines lit up within the hour. Bondi binder blows open judiciary ethics scandal. Nadler suspended amid partisan pattern allegations. Congresswoman Bondi spurs bipartisan shakeup. Liberal think tanks hesitated. Party donors panicked. In Nadler's home district, a Columbia Club fundraiser was canceled. The Manhattan Progressive Caucus issued a rare statement. Ethical leadership means owning mistakes, not burying them. And Jerry Nadler? He remained silent. No press statement, no denial, not even a tweet. His silence spoke louder than any defense. Pam Bondi, by contrast, gave just 5 words as she exited the Capitol steps. Let the record reflect submission. She didn't stay for questions. She didn't need to. Pam Bondi didn't gloat. She didn't give victory speeches. When the cameras clustered around her outside the Capitol, she spoke with the same restraint she carried into the chamber. This wasn't about feeling, she said. It was about function. And functionally, this committee failed. Reporters shouted questions. She didn't answer. Oversight, she added, isn't about headlines. It's about habits. And today, we changed one. With that, she walked away. No entourage, no flash, just the woman who brought the binder that broke the illusion. She left behind not a soundbite, but a standard. Inside the chamber, the gavel sat cracked on the bench. The nameplate was gone, the chair empty. No replacement had been named. There was only a binder, a red one, labeled Full Ethics, Submission, Subject, Representative Gerald Nadler. It sat silent on the clerk's desk, but in that silence, it screamed. It screamed through headlines. It screamed through district petitions. It screamed through the halls of Congress, reminding every official watching that the system could still do its job if someone was willing to pick up the paper trail and read it aloud. In the days that followed, media retrospectives cut together Nadler's greatest quotes. Power unchecked is democracy in retreat. We must begin accountability at home. They now served not as inspiration, but indictment. Pam Bondi never shouted. She never stormed. She just opened a binder. And for the first time in years, Congress listened. Because sometimes justice doesn't come in a headline. It comes in a document. Sometimes it doesn't roar. It turns a page.